Hi, and welcome to another online info session at ACTCM, or the American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine at the California Institute of Integral Studies. My name is Hannah Strack. I'm the admissions counselor for all ACTCM programs, and today with me we have Julia Lee, fourth year at ACTCM, and we'll be asking her some questions about her time at ACTCM, how she got to ACTCM, and we'll go from there from any questions that we have from the audience. But thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, Julia?
I'm great, thank you.
Great, great. So we'll just dive right on in and ask, how did you find yourself at ACTCM?
Okay, I guess it could be somewhat of a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So I'm of Chinese background, but growing up, I never really encountered Chinese medicine. My family was just more into Western medicine and Western care. And when I went to college, I studied chemical biology at Cal, and then did a lot of scientific research. I never really delved into Chinese medicine, never thought I would be here. But I went into drug discovery after graduating from college, and then went to medical school briefly in New York City. And along the way, I think I was just starting to be more and more disillusioned with some of the things I was encountering and doing in those fields. And finally, when I was in medical school, my health was tanking there, because I think it was just actually really clashing against some of my core beliefs. And so when I left, my health was already in really bad shape. And then at first, of course, I went to Western doctors, and I was like, could you help me with all these symptoms I was having? And there's nothing they could really do for me, or just with the set of things that I was going through. And then I was traveling, just trying to find solutions for myself. And then Chinese medicine just kept coming up. At first I was like, no way, this is I can't go down that road, because I think my family would just, really not understand.
Really?
And then it just kept coming up. I met doctors who really helped me. And just I think I developed a big confidence in the efficacy of Chinese medicine. And I was still thinking well, maybe I can't do it. Maybe Chinese medicine is good, but maybe I can't do it personally. I grew up in the States, and my family was just not really into it. But finally, it just kind of, after having this self battle for a few years, I just decided, if I don't do this, it's I think I would feel I would regret it for the rest of my life. So at first I was going to business school at the time at UC San Diego. And then I enrolled part-time at PCOM in San Diego. And then I was going to both schools for a bit. And then finally I was like, I really think this is what I want to do. And I ended up moving back to the Bay Area, where I'm from, and then going to ACTCM. So
wow. Yeah, no, that is a very well summarized history of everything that you've done. And it sounded like you had your interest in a couple of different schools, with medical school and getting your MBA. Are those skills utilized here at ACTCM, or how is your time here different from your previous education?
I mean, I just feel as I was going through all those different programs and making these big changes, my family and people around me, they're really questioning what are you doing with yourself? You need to commit and settle down. And why are you changing paths so much? But finally now everything just coalesced. Everything I've done in the past makes sense now. It's all useful. None of it was wasted. When I was in medical school briefly, I did a cadaver dissection. All the Western science and medicine, business practices, everything is useful as an acupuncturist, as a Chinese medicine doctor.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really grateful for that whole journey, because I think it just added a lot of dimensions to who I am today, and just to my medical practice today. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, absolutely it does. That's so interesting that you have that Western science background that plays into TCM, and even the business sense for going in, possibly starting your own acupuncture practice in the future. Maybe you can speak to this as an ACTCM community member, but what have you seen from the people who maybe don't have those prior science or business skills?
I'm really impressed with the students here, because I think that because they want to learn the medicine, they end up being able to overcome all those things. Of course, it's harder if you come from a humanities background, and you have to, you do have to catch up on a lot of science classes, and there's Western medical classes here. But I think, where there's a will, there's a way. And so I feel everyone does what they need to do to get to where they need to go.
Excellent. And so as a segue, what are some of the classes like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, so your first few years will be very different from your later few years. So the first 2 years, there's a lot of memorization. Like I think no matter what kind of medical school you go to, the first 2 years, a lot of memorization.
Yeah.
So for Chinese medicine, you memorize a lot of where the planets are located on the body, the meridians, and then the different herbs and formulas. So that's kind of like the ABCs of Chinese medicine. And then your last few years, you'll be in clinic more often, and then synthesizing all that information. So then it starts to really come together. But in the beginning, you just have to be prepared that there's a period of time when, it's a little bit like you need to just settle down and memorize things.
Excellent. Well, we're pretty close to the end of the questions that we had, because we wanted to make sure that was open for our audience members. So what I'd like to do is unmute you, Selena, at this point. But what I'd like to do is ask one more question and just invite that if you have any particular questions for Julia, that you can ask them now. But as you're thinking of maybe other questions you have, I'd like to ask you, Julia, any other advice that you have for people breaking into the TCM field? What would you advise to them?
I would say that it's not the easiest field to get into. It's a lot of work, but it's not mainstream, not super mainstream in America yet. So, it's not like there's a lot of like paths after that are already ready for you. So if you went to Western medical school, you would apply for residency and go to residency after. But here, you have to be entrepreneurial, and I mean, you don't have to be, but I think that's the way to a more successful career is to be entrepreneurial, be in charge of yourself, and know what you want. And because of that, I've talked to different people who want to get into Chinese medicine, and I would say that, if there's other things you want to do in life and you can't really focus, this isn't for you. You have to be willing to focus and really devote yourself to doing this for a number of years, and if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
And I guess there's this honeymoon period, with any field. When you get into it, especially Chinese medicine, it's fun. It's it feels good, it's enjoyable to learn, and there's a honeymoon period when you kind of get into it at first. I've seen this a lot because I did tutoring and being a TA here.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's very easy to be excited, but it's keeping that fire going. If you get married, how do you keep that, that passion alive, as you go, and it's I think for me, I feel I love this field so much. And I feel it's a example of a relationship that just gets better and better.
Yeah.
Maybe you become more aware of certain flaws or downsides, but then it's you just become more in love with it as you go, and you see how powerful it is in helping people too.
Interesting. How long would you typically say that honeymoon period tends to last?
I mean, definitely the first term, everyone's really gung-ho and excited because it's a new program. Some people move to San Francisco to do this, and it's all fresh and new. But I think sometimes it's the more tedious things start to happen where it's oh, you have a lot of quizzes, you have a lot of tests, and this is the truth for any graduate program. It's how do you keep that passion alive as you go, and even as you graduate and go into society and, continue to practice medicine for decades, how do you continue being inspired and being passionate about what you do? I think that's really important.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Julia. Selena, I'd love to see if you have any particular questions, or if you'd like to share a little bit about your experience, maybe just to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm gonna start with a brief introduction about my academic background.
Okay.
I'm currently a senior at USC, studying economics and mathematics. I was planning on going to the finance field, so I did a lot of preparation in it. But then I had a change of heart recently. So I actually took a gap semester back home to China, where I took some traditional Chinese medicine classes during the summer in Beijing for 2 weeks. And then I pretty much self-study a lot of TCM and different things around it. That has become my biggest passion now. So right now, I'm about to graduate in this December. So I'm looking at potential graduate programs that would align with my interest and my career path. To be honest, I don't really know much about how TCM institution or practices work in the United States, because I'm not that familiar, as I do not come from a healthcare background. But I'm like very interested in discovering this field, and you guys have provided me some insights into the programs. Thank you for sharing, Julia. So I do have a lot of questions, and I don't know if there are other participants in the webinar. I'm just going to go on one by one, and you can stop me if there's like time limits. So first of all, I'm interested in learning what career paths graduates of this master program could have, or like what you see people generally go into after graduation from your past alumni. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so I can start just with other things that I've heard of from past graduate, because we have graduate programs and postgraduate programs, which means that people that already passed the test for licensure in California or around the United States, they would go to, they would start their own acupuncture practices, although that takes a number of years to form. Once you have a good number of contacts, other people form maybe one larger acupuncture practice, and they have several acupuncturists working together. And some people have gone off to very intriguing job opportunities that I think have only opened up within the last couple of years, working on cruise ships, working in spas, working at integral or integrative health clinics that may have several different people of different healing modalities, such as chiropractors, physical therapists, things like that, all working under the same roof, but focusing on different formats of health. So those are some of the things that people tend to move off into. It really depends on the connections that they have in a certain location. Really, at your time at ACTCM, you are working in the community clinic upstairs or at a variety of different offsite clinics to help build your client base, to see where it is that you'd like to go after you graduate. But Julia, what have you heard from either current students or past graduates, and what is your perspective?
It seems like most people definitely with a Chinese medicine degree go into practicing medicine, but there's different avenues within that. You know, some people, they might take more of an administrative role, so you can work, you know, with the school, or some people end up working with insurance companies, or, you know, there's like other avenues. If you want to do more desk work, you know, there's definitely ways to go more towards that. And also some people, you know, they go into teaching. So like they can teach for acupuncture schools, or, you know, they run review classes for the licensing exam. You know, some people, they want to go into research, you know, so now that we have the first professional doctorate, and I'm part of the first entering class for that. In the past, there was only the entry level degree was a master's, but starting in 2015, they started having a doctorate, which was an entry-level doctorate. So some of my current classmates in that, they want to go into research. So I would say like maybe research, teaching, administration, and clinical practice, and being clinical practice being the bulk of what people go into.
So the next question that I had was about the study abroad program that you have. Was one of the was it an institution or a clinic in China? That one, if you can speak more about it.
So I had a few friends do the summer in Henan trip, and so that one's a little bit longer. I think it's about like 2 months long, but it could vary year from year. And that one is good in the sense that you get your finances covered. So you don't have to pay tuition to do that one. I think you pay your own airfare.
Yes.
Yeah, you do your own airfare, but you get a stipend while you're there, and then it's at Henan University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. And, you know, that's where Zhang Zongjing, he's from Henan, so he's the author of Sanghan Lun, you know, so at Henan Dashi, they have like some, I think there's like a museum for that, and just like, I think, you know, that's kind of a very, very fertile, like developing ground of Chinese medicine, even though it's not like one of the most like famous schools at the moment, but you can get into some of the old culture there. So I had a friend who just spent a lot of time at their library and, said that she learned a lot of things. And depending on if you know Chinese or not sometimes, and I think you seem like you know Chinese, so then you could possibly get even more out of it because you don't have the language barrier. But even if you don't speak Chinese, they provide translators. So then everyone, is able to learn and participate. And then during winter break, there's a shorter trip. I think it's about 2 weeks long that Valerie Hobbs leads.
Yeah.
Or
or at least for now.
Yeah, she was
really
leading.
new in the institution.
So last winter break, they took a 2-week trip to Hangzhou, so Hangzhou University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, I think, or Zhejiang University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, which is in Hangzhou. And then that was just a very quick tour, and it's a little bit, you have to pay for it, and people say, it's a little bit, I don't want to say expensive, but it's just like you definitely have to pay out of pocket, your tuition and your airfare and your lodgings and all that. It's not covered by the government. And then they said it was a really great experience too, because it was just like faster, everything was like more crammed in, and you get to see all these different departments and, just see how it's being practiced in China.
And one big benefit for that location is because it's that 2 weeks, it's that break between the fall semester and the spring semester. So you're not missing any class to go on this observership opportunity. And that's it adds the observer hours that you need for your clinic education. So it's a really neat opportunity to see how medicine is practiced.
So my next question is, what's your passing rate on the board exam or like the license exam?
Oh, pass rate on board exams. It's very high. So in August of 2016, we had a 100% pass rate from all of our ACTCM graduates. And since then, I think it's been at least in the 90th or 80th percentile. But there is, again, another place on the website that points out that August 2016 success. But we really tout very high pass rates from our students.
Yeah, I would say our school is definitely one with very trustworthy, reputable, passing the license rates.
What is your class profile, if you're able to share with me? Just their academic backgrounds, because I'm not from the field and I'm interested in finding out what's like the age or diversity sort of aspect of the student population here.
So are you looking at everything in terms of age, ethnicity?
Working experiences, field, educational background, etc.
Excellent. So it's very wide of how many different types of people come into ACTCM. One very prominent story, which is not quite the same as Julia's, but a lot of people who have been injured in some way or have had poor health and have tried Western medicine for a long, which I lied. I guess that is very similar to yours. But you have a lot of different pieces, a lot of moving pieces to your story, so excuse me. A lot of people in poor health that try TCM, that it's changed their life and they want to be healers the way they themselves have been healed. And that's sort of a really similar story as a lot of people that come to ACTCM. Age ranges are between late 20s to early 60s, people in their first, second, or maybe third career change. So it's really a wide variety of experience levels, of background.
I mean, I feel like there's no type necessarily. I would say they're like what Hannah mentioned, people maybe coming from science or from healthcare. There's quite a few nurses that sometimes they work as nurses and come to school and they kind of do those part-time and they want to transition into more of a holistic field. I mean, there's people who are acrobats, and maybe they were injured and that was how they encountered Chinese medicine. Dancers. Just such a big range, like you said. And there's people who've come directly from college to people who are, retired and decide to then get their doctorate, and so it's just such a huge variety of people that you can meet here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would say that one of the most valuable things were the people that I met here, because I think, everyone's on a healing journey here, and it just seems like everything kind of like gets more intense when everyone is doing that together, so I feel like having that group feeling is really important, because I think like Selena, I was like looking into Chinese medicine and like reading about it like before coming to school here, but it's just not the same as when you have everyone all together like practicing and like doing it together, and being able to talk to your friends, and there's just this group energy that makes it more exciting and fun, and more momentum moving forward.
I will also add that we are accepting of all races, classes, genders, ethnicities. This is a very welcoming place and accepting of who anybody wants to be. So that's also a big mission statement within the California Institute of Integral Studies.
Sure, sounds good. So I want to ask more about the curriculum of the program. So what are some tracks, electives, or concentrations that are being provided to students, and what textbooks are you using for the most part? Do you have any traditional Chinese books from ancient history, or do you use like translated versions or more recently written ones by other practitioners from non-Chinese background? And do you have any classes focused on Qi Taoism?
So this is an entry-level degree, so there's definitely like a foundation that you have to build before you can do anything else. And no matter what school you go to, and I have friends at many different schools, so if you have questions about other schools or how things compare and different locations, you can ask me as well. But no matter if it's PCOM in San Diego, ACTCM in San Francisco, AIMC in Berkeley, like no matter where you are, the first thing you have to do is get your license. And so it can be similar across on that spectrum in terms of what classes you have to take, because everyone has to learn the same meridians, if there's the same points, same herbs, same formulas, so that you can get your license. And I would say that is kind of like the meat, like kind of the core of an acupuncture school, is like providing you with that foundation. And the books that we use, like most of the acupuncture schools, I believe, use those same books. So there's one from China that was translated. It's called Chinese Acupuncture and Moxibustion. Often in school we call it CAM. And that book is the foundation for the acupuncture studies that you learn. And that's the truth no matter what school you go to. And there's also Peter Deadman's Manual of Acupuncture. And then that one is a bit newer, and we often use that in school as well. But if you want to know what's definitive for the board exam, for your licenses, everyone says CAM. So Chinese Acupuncture and Moxibustion. I think the authors tend to. And then on the herb side, there's two textbooks by Dan Bensky. So one is called Materia Medica, so it's all the single herbs that you have to know, and the other one is formulas and strategies. So that's all the herbal formulas, all the fungi that you have to know. And I would say that if you in your time here can really have a solid grasp of the information in those books, that lays a very good groundwork for getting your license and moving on into practice. But having said that, there's a lot of outside studying and knowledge that you can do to reach the level that you want to be as a practitioner. The school provides you with an opportunity, so it's a platform where you can get out of it what you want. And then after that, and within that, it's up to you how much you want to develop further. So you mentioned Taoism, and many students here are interested in Qigong, Taoism, and there's some entry kind of like intro classes. So there's one Tai Chi class and one Qigong class. But if you want to go deeper into that, the school is like a buffet, opens the door, but it doesn't pressure people into doing those things, because some people, that's not what they're into. And then you can follow your passion where it leads you. So there's kind of different subcultures within the school for like people maybe more gravitating towards a certain style of acupuncture or Chinese medicine, or there's, like you said, there's some newer books written maybe by non-Chinese people, and those are certain styles that are popular in the West, and certain people want to pursue that. So there's a lot of freedom within the field, but there is like a solid groundwork you have to build, like no matter who you are. You have to get your license, and you have to start from the same place.
Besides academics, what's the campus life or vibe here?
Julia?
I would say that, have you been to our school before at all? Or
No,
okay.
I'm thinking of coming to the open house, but I have not made up my mind. Yeah.
That would be a great event for you to go to.
Our school merged with California Institute of Integral Studies a few years ago, but still on the acupuncture side, on the Chinese medicine campus side, everyone's very close. Once you get into clinic, you're close with the clinic staff. You're close with, like we know each other. We see each other often in the kitchen, and we'll talk to each other. And I think it's just like kind of like a family atmosphere, where everyone knows each other. It's different. Like I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad, and it's like no one knows each other. So I think it was very heartwarming here to like be in a community where people know each other, can care about each other. Like if you go on vacation, people be like, "How was your trip?" And just I think that's one thing I do enjoy very much about our school.
I would agree.
Yeah, but I think it's also our school is going through changes, merged with the larger institution. And so it remains to be seen, like, how things happen as, we join with other different modalities of holistic healthcare, because at CIIS there's like more of an emphasis on counseling, and then just, our library is now located at the Mission Street campus, and just seeing how things will develop with these new changes.
Absolutely. And we already have classes that are happening over at the other campus location. So that's another opportunity that if you can't make those open houses, we can schedule another visit for you that would be at a more convenient time, so that we can show you this campus location located at 455 Arkansas Street and the 1453 Mission Street location.
Thank you. And I also have the question on your clinic. What are some internships or shadowing opportunities for students in their later half of the curriculum?
Should I go for this?
Sure.
Okay, so I think the bulk of practice is actually, so because of the nature of our field, is that usually people go into private practice after, so it's very important to have a good amount of shifts in our regular upstairs clinic here at our Arkansas, our ACTCM campus. But if you're asking about offsites, we have one at California Pacific Medical Center, and that's to see stroke patients, and it's mostly a lot of scalp acupuncture and also some body acupuncture that's supervised by some of our faculty here. And then we have a lifelong Ashby clinic, which is in the East Bay, and that's in an integrative medical setting, so it's with Western medicine, and then there's a faculty that leads that, so that students do acupuncture in that Western medical setting.
Health Rate 360.
What is that?
That's located in the Mission, and that is actually, I'm not as familiar as what they do at that location, but Health Rate 360, Women's Resource Center.
Oh, Women's Resource Center. Is that?
They're not the same thing, but
okay.
those are. And I'm not sure where the resource center is located.
So that one is just a few blocks from our school, kind of like near downtown, like 9th and Bryant.
Oh, okay.
And then that one is actually next to the San Francisco prison. And so it's mostly, it's a resource center for women that just got out of prison, and then they have to show up at that resource center regularly. And then we have a little room in there where we can do acupuncture, and mostly on the ear, so auricular acupuncture for those the people that come in. And I did that one time. I really liked it, because I think just being able to provide care for people who often are not cared for very much in our society, like they appreciate you so much, and you really form like deep relationships. And yeah, I feel like it was a really special experience.
Yeah, I would say that's very similar to the ear acupuncture clinic and a lot of different clinics that we have here. So while I can't remember the details about Health Rate 360, we have in total about 4 or 5 different offsite locations for practice of clinical education.
What about scholarship options?
Absolutely. So we have scholarships listed on the ACTCM page as well as the CIIS page. There are no scholarships that offer like a full ride, but we do have ACTCM scholarships specifically, but it's up to the work of the applicant to be able to read through those, see what you're eligible for, and apply for those.
There's some like outside organizations too. I feel like the Trudy McAllister Foundation. So she's a woman who benefited a lot from Oriental medicine, and then she formed like a foundation to support students that want to go into Chinese medicine. So I believe the amount varies year by year, like how many scholarships and what amount that she gives out. And also there's some herb companies that do scholarships. So I got one from New Herbs. It's an herb company based in the Bay Area.
Nice.
So then they offer like, you know, different amounts as well. And I got like a small scholarship from them one year.
Oh, great.
So if you just keep looking, sometimes there's money. I do think most people, they do take out loans to go to school here. And so it's a big financial commitment, and just make sure, you know, it's like something you really feel passionate about and you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. That will pretty much be the questions I have for now.
And thank you so much to our audience who asked really great questions. And one thing I wanted to highlight really quick is you may have noticed during the talk, my shirt is one from our Chinese New Year Festival, which happens once a year. And we do have other events and festivals and support for our graduates with CEUs that we provide for free based on different talks and information that we give to them. But definitely check us out for our open houses, for our events that happen each year. Go to our website, actcm.edu, or if you have any other questions, I've provided my email for the audience, but for more information, please send us an email at actcmadmissions, that's with an S on the end, actcmadmissions@ciis.edu. So thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you so much, Julia, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Hannah.
And have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Yep, bye.